Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Big Air01 here, coming at you with a video, my third video on this 1986 YZ80. This YZ80 we purchased for $300, and we're trying to get it fixed up so that we can get it running so that my wife can learn how to ride. So if you want to check out the other videos I have on my channel, my YZ80, definitely check out my channel for that. I also have a PW50 build, and also I'm still currently working on my WR250R. In this video, we're going to take off the stator cover, we're going to take off the reeds, we're going to take off the clutch. The reason why we're going to check to make sure that the reeds are in good condition and working or not broken or anything like that. We're also going to take off the water pump and replace a few parts on the water pump. So a couple screws that the guy that I had purchased it off didn't really do. You had some aftermarket stuff on there that isn't doing the job. We're also going to pull the clutch cover off and take a boo in there and probably soak the clutch plates in a little bit of oil because the clutch doesn't seem to be working at this point, even though when I purchased it there was no oil in it, so it's been sitting dry. So it's probably a good idea to have a little bit of oil soaked into the clutch plates before I put it all back together. So definitely if you like the content of this video, in the bottom left hand corner there's a little watermark. Hit that watermark and hit the subscribe button, it's much appreciated. But for now, let's get into the video. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the video. And let's talk about a few parts that we're going to be replacing here today. So starting with the water pump, we have two O-ring gaskets that go on the sleeve. I'll show you in that. We have a crush washer for the drain, and we also have the gasket for the water pump itself. And we're going to use a couple of these bolts to help make sure that I have the correct bolts. Moving on to the crankcase cover on the clutch side, we have the oil drain, which obviously is incorrect, and we've also got a new crush washer for that. We have the reed gasket for the reeds. I've got the clutch cover gasket, brand new one of those. And if you've watched any of my other videos, I'm missing a few parts around the carburetor, so I've got some new clamps and a few parts for the exhaust, and also we're going to do the spark plug. This is a twin air filter. So I also have my manual, my climber's manual that I'm going to be referring to, and then I'm also going to be using some transmission oil for the clutches. These are all the parts, and I'll probably try to put a link in the, or I'll put a description in the comment section below to all the part numbers so that it's easy reference for you in the future. So we're going to start with the stator cover because it's super easy to do. It's only 3 bolts, 3 Phillips pan head screws. With this there is a gasket there, but I'm not going to be redoing that gasket. It's not like I'm going to be soaking this in water, but you're just going to take them off. A little bit of dirt in there. I'll clean all that up before I put it back together. Maybe clean that out as well. It's hard to tell if this is working correctly, but we'll clean it out in there and see if but everything looks good. I mean, it turns, so. Oh, it is kind of bent though. Let me know in the comment section if you think that's a problem. Looks like this bolt here isn't center, and on the end of the crank, and it's doing this weird. It's not sitting center, so I wonder if somebody tried to pull that off and they had some issues with it. Okay, so I've cleaned it all up. I'm not going to worry about this yet. because I'm gonna have to go get a magneto holder tool to take this off if that is going to be an issue. I suspect it is, and that's going to suck if it is, because that means that I would have to pull this whole motor out and probably have to replace the crankcase on it, or the crankshaft, sorry. So not good. Let's put it back together and continue on with this episode. Okay, so now we're going to take off the carburetor. If you didn't have what I have, meaning like you actually had a full bike, you would have the clamps and everything. I don't have the clamps on mine yet, so but it's pretty easy. There would be a fuel line here that comes from your gas tank. You're going to take off. I've already cleaned this carburetor, so if you want to check it out in my previous video, feel free to check that out on my channel. Carburetor's out. Put that off to the side. Now we got 4 10mm bolts. Okay, to make this a little easier, I undid this bolt here, right here, that's on the other side, so that I can pull this out. Okay, so looking at your reeds here, you want to make sure that there's no cracking on the reeds themselves, and that they're flush down on the surface. So mine look pretty good. Not too bad. I'm going to replace the gasket because I got a new gasket. So let's do that right now. I got my new gasket, put it all sort of back together. Let's just bolt it back in there. So those are all put back together now. I put, make sure when you tighten these up, you cross tighten them so that they're tightened down evenly. My new gasket's in there. Everything's all tight back on there. The reeds look pretty good. I'm not too worried about them. The next part, we might as well put the carburetor back in because we've already cleaned that in my previous episodes. If you want to see that, check it out in that episode. And then we'll move on to the other side of the motorcycle. So for that, I ordered 2 new parts. I had new clamps because this bike obviously didn't have it, or were lost with the previous owner. They're pretty simple. They just go over top of each one of these and they tighten down that way. Okay, so in here there's a groove that this slides into right here. You can see it right there. That slides into, there's a groove at the top of the sleeve that you want to put that groove into. Okay, so the carb's all put back together. The next part we're going to do is the spark plug. So we'll undo this and put the new one in and maybe check to see if it has any spark. So this bike takes the BR9 ES, and if you want to go with a little bit hotter burning, I went with the BR9 EIX. Well, there is spark there, surprisingly, looking at the state of the stator. So maybe it will run. Okay, so I've turned the bike around. As you can see, we have the water pump here, and then this is the clutch cover basket, or the clutch cover, sorry. And then you can see that he's put a weird drain for your oil drain and a weird bolt for your radiator drain, and then it's got another random bolt there. So I've got some proper bolts, hopefully, that will work and seal those up, and the proper washers that go with these so it doesn't leak. So we're going to start by taking off the Kickstarter, which is a 14mm bolt. then it should just pull right off. And then we're going to pull this this water pump apart and take a look, see if there's any broken parts in there. So we'll start off by taking the hose off. Be mindful that there might still be a bit of water left in there. And we're gonna need Phillips for some of these. The bottom one's a bit corroded. We're not gonna be using these water bolts, these ones. And we're also gonna take these ones off up top here. Our new gaskets. As you can see, he siliconed this because it probably leaked on him. Okay, so we're gonna start by pulling off this little sleeve here. It should just pull straight up. Okay, so the water pump just pulls off. There's a little, this is the gasket which is done. Water pump looks okay though, thank goodness. So the bottom is just pushed in there, and as you can see there's a rubber O-ring that we're going to replace. So that's sort of why I bought the O-rings. And then you got another O-ring right there. Okay, so we're going to undo these bolts so that we can push this all the way down when we want to take this off. We're going to take off the foot peg here that's just held down by this bolt right here, which I believe is probably just a 14 mil. Yeah, it should clear it now. So we're going to undo all these bolts. So a couple tricks that I wanted to show you. Let's say you have a stubborn bolt that's either stripped or won't come out. What I didn't have any issues with this bike, but I wanted to show you sort of my PW50. I had to get a pair of vice grips and grab onto it from the side and crack it that way to be able to get the screws out. This bike didn't have that issue, but if you do have some stubborn bolts, try using some vice grips. That might help you. Another tip that I like to share is I like to draw the case so that all the bolts go back in the same order. As you can see, some of them are longer than the other, and I don't want to put the bolts in the wrong hole, so I just like to draw it out, put some holes in it, and that's how I keep track of where the bolts go. Just be careful. Okay, we'll have to figure out how to put that back together, but this should have stayed in there, and then you would have slid it off there. But look at my manual how to put that back together. But there you go, there's the clutch, and everything's all there. So the next step I'm going to do is I'm going to pull the clutch apart. Okay, so now we're going to take out these bolts here. We're going to do it in a crisscross pattern. So I'm going to take this one, and then this one and this one off. So all there is a screw, a washer, and the spring. Okay, so now we're going to remove the whole clutch along with the plates. Just like that. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these apart and soak these in some oil. Okay, so to remove the clutch bloss, which is the part in the middle here, you're going to need a holding tool of some sort to be able to hold or undo this bolt here. Okay, so I've got the clutch boss out. Okay, next we're going to pull off this little washer that's right here, that's on the spline. And then you should be able to pull off the whole basket. Just like that. I want to warn you, there is a ball inside here that you do not want to lose. So you want to make sure that you keep that ball that's in there. It's called the clutch ball. Okay, so now we're going to try to put the Kickstarter back in the way it should be. Okay, so you're going to have to remove this gear. So there's a little clip right here that you're going to have to take off. Just like that. And then there's a washer. The whole gear will come off. The reason why we have to take that off is because to put it back on, it might be easier to maneuver past that gear. Okay, so to put this back together, this is the little Kickstarter stopper. Okay, that's got to sit right here. This little tab has to sit down in here, and then this spring has to go back into this hole. So you just push it back in there, so you can sort of, I don't know if you can see it on the camera. Let's get a close up here. So you can see that sitting there like that. This spring now is going to go all the way down into this hole down there. So to do that, you're going to need some needle nose pliers, and you're just going to bring it so you can see how that's got to stay in that hole. But that's how you put that back together. And then now we'll just put this gear back on. Okay, so now that we have inspected that, everything looks fine in there that I can see. I can't see anything crazy. We're going to take the gasket off because I've got a new one. But then we're going to put the clutch basket back on. Just slide it over top. Find the gear. Gonna lock into a gear here. Put your washer on top with the spline again. Need your boss back over top of that. Your washer and your bolt. So you're gonna want to tighten up that bolt right here to 40 foot-pounds or 55 Newton meters. So now that's back on there. You're gonna put your thing back in there. There's a ball in there that it pushes in and out, pushes on the pressure plate. So here we're at the bench. We're gonna look at the clutch plates, and we're gonna soak them in some oil and make sure that none of them are cracked or anything like that. I don't have any tools to measure the proper distances and stuff like that. You're gonna want to use a 2-stroke lubricant for gearboxes. You don't want to use regular oil because this is meant for clutches and gears and stuff like that. So you want to make sure you use the right oil. So I'm going to let this soak overnight, and then we'll get back at installing it all back together tomorrow. Okay, so it says to install a friction disc first and then a clutch plate after. So we'll do that and just keep repeating this until it's done. Okay, then to put the plate on, you got to put this arrow with this little notch there. And then we're going to put in our springs. I tighten these down in a cross pattern evenly at 10 Newton meters. We're going to install the clutch cover gasket. For this video, unfortunately the dealership sent me the wrong gasket for the water pump, so I'm gonna have to reorder that. But you would button that up the same way you took it apart, same with your brake and your foot peg and also your Kickstarter. You're gonna have to stay tuned for the next video to see if this bike's gonna run. So definitely hit the like or subscribe button so that you can see the next video, or if you already have, it's much appreciated. And stay tuned for future content within this bike and all my other bikes. So make sure you subscribe. Thanks for watching.